Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to build a complete Firebase Firestore CRUD application. I'll walk you through how to create, read, update, and delete data using Firestore, step by step. If you haven't checked out my previous tutorials on Flutter Firebase setup and Flutter Firebase authentication, I've added the links down in the description. Be sure to watch those first if you're just getting started. And let's get started. In this video, we're going to build a Firebase Firestore CRUD system for a simple note-taking app where you'll be able to create, read, update, and delete notes.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel for more content like this.
But before we dive into that, we'll first set up a Firebase service class to design our generic CRUD methods. This way, we can reuse the same logic across our entire project and keep our code clean and maintainable. First of all, open your terminal and run the command flutter pub add cloud_firestore. This will add the Firestore package to your project so we can start interacting with the Firestore database. Alright, once the command finishes running, let's open our pubspec.yaml file to make sure the package was added correctly. Now we're ready to start using Firestore in our app. Now let's set up our Firebase Services class. We'll define a Firestore instance inside it using Firebase Firestore.instance, and this is where we'll build all our generic CRUD methods to keep our code neat and reusable. Now we're going to create 4 methods inside our Firebase Services class: get, add, update, and delete. Each method will take a path parameter, which represents the Firestore collection path we want to interact with. For the get method, we'll make sure to also include the document ID with each document, so we can use it later when we need to update or delete that specific note. First of all, inside our Notes repository class, we'll create an instance of our Firebase services so we can call the generic CRUD methods we've already set up. Next, we'll create a note model to make it easier to work with our data. For that, we'll use the QuickType website, which helps us quickly generate a Dart class from a sample JSON structure. This will allow us to easily convert Firestore documents to Dart objects and vice versa, keeping everything clean and type-safe. Now let's create a new Dart file called notes_model.dart and paste the generated model code from QuickType into it. This model will help us map Firestore documents to Dart objects and make it easier to handle note data throughout our app. Alright, now that everything is set up, it's time to start coding our CRUD methods specifically for notes. We'll be using our Firebase Services class along with the note model we just created to build methods for getting, adding, updating, and deleting notes. So let's dive in and get started. Great, we've finished creating all our CRUD methods for notes. Now it's time to move on and design the UI. But before we jump into Flutter widgets, let's first head over to the Firebase website and create our Firestore database. This is where all of our notes will be stored, and it's an essential step before we can start displaying or saving any data in the app. Alright, once you're on the Firebase console, go to the Firestore database section from the left-hand menu. Click on Create Database to start the setup. Next, choose your Cloud Firestore location. This determines where your database is hosted. Here, you'll be asked to choose your security rules. For now, select Test Mode, which will allow us to read and write data during development without any restrictions. Alright, our database is created. We can also create collections manually from here, but I prefer to handle that through our Flutter UI. So I'll skip this step for now. Let's head back to our Flutter project and start designing the UI to interact with our Firebase Firestore database. Okay, this is our notes screen that we created earlier. First of all, I'll create an instance of our repository class. Next, we'll design our refreshNotes method to fetch the latest notes from the Firestore database. For this, we'll create a new list of notes right here, so we can compare the notes from Firestore with our current list. Next, we'll create two text fields, one for the note title and one for the content. We'll also make sure to dispose of these controllers properly to avoid memory leaks. This is a good practice for optimizing performance and keeping our application efficient. Alright, next we'll call the refreshNotes method inside the initState function. This will make sure we fetch and display our notes right when the app starts. Now let's display our notes using the ListView.Builder widget. This widget is perfect for building a scrollable list dynamically based on the number of notes we have. Okay, now that everything is working fine, let's add a floating action button to allow users to add a new note. Next, we'll create a method to handle both adding and updating notes. This method will also show a dialog which we can use for both adding a new note and editing an existing one. We'll add a parameter called existing note using our notes model to check whether we're updating a note. If this parameter is not null, we'll prefill the text fields with the selected notes data so the user can update it. Otherwise, we'll clear the text fields to allow adding a new note. Alright, now let's display the dialog. We'll set the title of the dialog based on the existing note. If it's null, we'll show create note, otherwise we'll show update note. Inside the dialog, we'll include two text fields, one for the note's title and one for the content. Now we'll assign our method to the action buttons on press callback so it opens the dialog when tapped. Perfect. Right now, the dialog is taking up the full screen height. Let's fix that by adjusting it to only take the actual size of its content. Alright, now it's looking good. Let's go ahead and create our action buttons, one for saving the note and another to cancel and close the dialog. Same here, we check if existing note is null. If it is, we show create on the button, otherwise we display update. Now let's design our buttons a little bit to make them look nicer and fit better with the app's style. Perfect. Everything is done. Alright, this will close the dialog. Now let's work on the update and create note functionality. If the existing note is not empty, that means we selected a note and we're going to update it. So right here, we'll call our update note method from the repository which we already made earlier. First of all, we trim the controllers so we can remove any extra white space from the title and content fields. This helps keep our data clean and avoids saving notes with unnecessary spaces. As we've designed our update note method, it returns either true or false. If the update is successful, it returns true. So in that case, we'll show a snack bar message to inform the user that the note was updated successfully. Also, it's really important to initially check if the title or content is empty. We don't want to allow saving empty notes. So if either field is empty, we'll show a snack bar message asking the user to fill in the required fields, and we'll stop the process right there. Okay, now if existing note is not empty, it will go with update note. And in the else block, we'll add a new note. So let's go ahead and write the code for that. If the note is added successfully, we'll also show a snack bar message to let the user know that the note was created. This way, the user gets clear feedback whether they're updating or creating a note. And don't forget to refresh the notes list after each operation, whether it's an update or a new note. Also, make sure to close the dialog once the action is complete so the user returns to the main screen smoothly. Okay, now let's create a note. Perfect, the note is showing up correctly. Let's add another one. Great, everything looks good so far. Now let's check our Firestore database to see if the notes have been created successfully. Perfect. As you can see, our notes are all here. Alright, let's head back to our project and continue. Next, we'll make our notes clickable so that tapping a note opens the dialog for updating it. Okay, now let's try updating a note. Perfect, it's working smoothly. Next, we'll implement the delete functionality by adding a delete icon to each note. We'll add a confirmation dialog to ask the user if they're sure about deleting the note. This helps prevent accidental deletions and gives the user a chance to cancel. If the user confirms the deletion, we call our delete method to remove the note. If the delete is confirmed, it returns true, meaning the note was successfully deleted. In that case, we'll show a snackbar message to notify the user that the note has been deleted. Perfect, the delete functionality is working just fine. Now that everything is working fine and our CRUD methods are complete, let's move on and make some UI improvements to make our dialog look better and more user-friendly. Alright, now let's add a refresh indicator to our notes list. This will let users pull down to refresh the list of notes easily, so they can get the latest updates without needing to reopen the app or screen. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to press the bell icon so you get notified about my latest videos. And also, please give this video a like if you found it helpful. Goodbye. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.